Not in the room, not in the deal, and you're not invited. Everyone is talking about the Andrew Byron Coldplay kiss cam scandal like it's some huge major takedown. But you know what? It's not. Here's the real story. Andrew Byron is going to be just fine because he's rich. This is really not about a scandal. This is about access to power and opportunity and a rigged game that you and I are not a part of. Again, not in the room, not in the deal. That's what this video is about. Let's get started. All right, who is Andrew Byron? Well, he's the classic, what I call toxic CEO. So if you go read the Glassdoor reviews long before this scandal even ever happened, it's just atrocious. So there was corporate toxic culture, culture of fear, zero leadership, no support. That's what the Glassdoor reviews say. And you know what? You see this all over corporate America. He is the perfect example and the prototype of what's wrong with senior leadership in corporate America. And in tech in particular, it's on steroids. So think about it. Think about the hubris of these two people, the arrogance and the hubris and the tone deafness of these two people to think that they could cheat openly out in the open at apparently what I understand is a company event and to be caught on the Jumbotron. But they obviously think they're untouchable because they were just carrying on with no care in the world, apparently. Now, we've all seen what happened, and thank God, good on Chris Martin for calling them out, but that's not the usual thing. So, you know what? Here's the part that nobody's talking about. How did he even get there? So I did some research. Andy Byron became the CEO of Astronomer through, a series of moving up. But really what it was is he had access to things that you and I don't have access to. And that's he got a large equity stake in the company. And this is through VC funding, IPOs, and things like that. And that's the real story here. So you ever see an IPO that hits the headlines and you think, how did I miss that? What the heck? Where was I? I didn't even know this company existed. But that's exactly it. That's the game. And that's how Byron became CEO of Astronomer and built this wealth. And that's why he's going to be just fine. So yeah, it's about access and it's about opportunities that you and I get boxed out of. So here's one example of things that really happen and how we are, the system is just rigged a certain way. And it's what I call VC adjacent. So it's something being called an accredited investor. As an example, I have been able to spot a number of opportunities that I'm very interested in and an opportunity to build wealth. I identified one as I wanted to invest in a mobile park home. And I also just found another one where I'd like to invest in, and what it is, it's 40,000, or I think 40 million acres, if you will, of untapped oil reserves. But you have to be an accredited investor in order to take advantage of it. Now, to be an accredited investor, you have to meet certain criteria. If you didn't know this, I want to share this with everybody. So, in order to be an accredited investor, you have to be one of two things. You either have to have at least $1 million and above of net worth, which cannot include your primary residence. That's the first thing. So you either have to have $1 million in net worth. Okay. Very difficult for some of us to have. Not so difficult for others of us to have, depending on what club you're in. That's the one criteria. The second criteria is you have to have 2 years in a row of consecutive, essentially W-2 of $200,000 and above for 2 years in order to be an accredited investor. Not necessarily the world's biggest hurdle. However, if you're a typical Gen X career, facing the fourth quarter, or anybody in tech, and really not just Gen X, but definitely Gen X, it might be very difficult to keep that metric up, especially when you are facing back-to-back layoffs. So it's just another example about how you're getting boxed out. The other thing that makes me kind of upset about it, or another way to think about it is, if I wanted to go into a casino and blow my last, penny, at the blackjack table, I'm free to do that. If I wanted to go and spend irresponsibly and go bankrupt and lose my home, I'm free to do that. But if I want to go and get into a room and build real wealth outside my 401k, there's barriers to entry. Now, in the accredited investor situation, it's just an example. It's something set by the government. But overall, in my opinion, my lens on this is that, it's a cabal. So we've got the corporate oligarchy, the elites, we've got government corruption, and then we have gangster banksters. And I'm just pointing out accredited investors as a way just to highlight and illustrate to you one way that you and I are being boxed out of building real wealth. So this is real quote. As one of the 9,000 just ripped to pay for AI investment, our team grew revenue over 100% in the past 3 years, built major customers from zero to millions in revenue, and I was laid off anyway. This is corporate slop. That is a real quote. You saw it on the screen from somebody, a real life person who, just in my last video, Microsoft video about laying off 9,000 people that just happened about a month ago. That was a real taken from LinkedIn. So that is the kind of corporate slop. It's just another thing that we are facing. So not only being boxed out of opportunities, but being handed, throwing people into broken systems and, no tools, no leadership, no ways to get started, a condensed timeline in which to be expected to achieve essentially what I like to call turning water into wine. That's what corporate slop is, and that is something that we are facing. However, I do want to point out that it's not all bad news. So I laid out, the scandal, and what I see the real issue with Andrew Byron is that there's no repercussion for him. But I'd like to talk about some good things that I'm seeing in the market. Publix, 0 layoffs since 1913. Lincoln Electric, 91 consecutive years of profit sharing and lifetime employment for productive workers. Nugget Markets, which I believe is a grocery store chain on the West Coast and in California. 100 years without a single layoff. See, these companies prove that corporate stability is not only achievable, it's just morally better. It's profitable. And notice something. This is what I noticed. Sometimes I think to myself, notice this. None of these people are in tech. None of these companies are in tech. They're in, obviously, the food business, the grocery store chains, recession-proof consumables that we all need to have. And sometimes I think, is tech a cancer? Is there a bigger narrative going on that we may want to take a step back and look at? I don't know. There's obviously a lot of upheaval in the job market in general, but tech is really at the center of things because of AI right now. Just something to think about, something to observe maybe. But those CEOs of Publix, Lincoln Electric, and Nugget Markets should be commended because there are good companies out there. So if you're Gen X, I wanted to do this video to share with you my take on the Andrew Byron thing, give you kind of unmasking of what I think is really happening or another element to what's really happening, but to also ask the larger question, Gen X, what is your game plan? Would it make sense for you to pivot into one of those verticals and start working for one of these grocery store companies? There are other companies out there that also haven't had layoffs. It's just something to think about. You know what I'd like to know? If you've got a corporate slop story or you see any value, give me a comment, and stay tuned because my next video is something else that I'm going to cover that I uncovered about Microsoft and the next dirty trick that they're up to. And there's more there behind this layoff. Think of it as Microsoft layoff 9,000 people segment 2. Okay. Anyway, thanks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the next one. Give me a comment, give me a like, share, and just engage. Okay? Take care.